Over the last 24 hours, it's been an absolute wild ride for the Nasdaq and the SP 500. Going into yesterday's close into today's open, you actually continue to run 200 points from around 12.8 up to 13,000 on the Nasdaq. Yesterday at the video, I talked about the technicals looking strong, CPI looking to perform as we performed last time, and then going into the future as well. We obviously had a major shock. We continued running up with the technicals looking strong. CPI was released and boom. Now there's a major factor here into why we thought CPI would be strong. That factor still played out. However, CPI had other plans. We're going to talk about exactly what's happening there and what to expect over the next few weeks. Before we get into that, I have to ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Every single day, I'm talking about the stock market here. I'm going over exactly what to expect. Over the past 4 or 5 weeks, we've really been killing it. But I'm going to be transparent with you. Over the past week and a half, I believe my strategy, I've been wrong lately. I have been wrong. But that doesn't stop me from giving you the content as I see it happening and telling you the truth based on my opinion. Winning or losing, I'm never going to lie. I'm never going to mislead you based on what I see happening or just to get a view. Now, as we get back in here, what happened? So we had our CPI report, and CPI ended up rising, basically saying inflation's growing. Now, the rise wasn't big. It was pretty minuscule. All things considered, pretty small amounts. But there was a few areas that should have been dropping, right? So we talked about it yesterday. When you're looking at inflation, we have energy prices dropping rapidly based on how we're kind of suppressing those prices. I've talked about that a lot here. I don't want to talk about that today. But we're looking mainly at food, shelter, which really comes back down to rents, medical care services. I don't really care about that. And then the sharp decline in gasoline prices. Now, this right here is the major concern. Is gas prices are dropping rapidly. And we all know what's happening. And we talked about this, how they're lowering those rates, even though the demand has gotten even higher. They're lowering these gas prices and manipulating the prices. Gas prices will skyrocket in the near-term future. But inflation actually rose, and it should not have done this. This is very, very bad. Okay, that's the concern. That's the issue in the market. That's what's happening. Now, as you look at this as well, you can see that rise in actual food prices shooting up the fastest that they've ever done basically since the 70s, right? Michael Burry, all of them talking about this as well, just going crazy as far as food prices right now. That's a major concern. Now, looking at energy, oil, what's happening there? Again, before we get into those charts, I have to go over this as well. Again, you've been seeing that steep decline. And I even talked about it yesterday that even if you were going to see like a decline, it should have been flat, if anything. Like flat was like worst case scenario, right? But you still have been coming down. Now, going into Nasdaq and looking at the market, this took you by a total surprise. It took me by surprise, people. I lost about 1,400 on the day going over those trades I had yesterday. And again, I have to be transparent. If I'm going to talk about, our community, our Discord, things like that, I got to be transparent with the losses as well, right? That's why you've never seen a bad, review from anywhere on here, because I've never lied to you guys. I just don't do it. That's just not how we operate here. But with that happening, look at where you're going now. You've had an immediate drop from 13,000 all the way down to 12,200, which really was our big range that we had marked out on the market. Chances are you're going to be testing these lows very soon and very quickly. We're going into power hour right now. I have to make this video. I had a lot of personal stuff going on today. I have to get this out of the way as we speak. Just got to get it out of the way now. I anticipate more slippage, more downside here on Nasdaq and on ES. It's just probably going to continue. You do have PPI tomorrow, so I would be watching out for that as well. But the major concern here is what is happening with our food and overall pricing on the markets right now. Now they're trying to price in a 100 BPS hike, which again, this is another major concern. Are we going to continue to raise those rates? Now, this leads me to, before we even get into those charts, right, I'm talking more about the fundamentals here because that's really what we have to be looking at. And our inversion, you're seeing the volatility now kick in that we kind of talked about from last Friday. And you're seeing that kick in, and you're seeing the effects of inflation really ramp up. We've made all these rate hikes. We've hit the ceiling of where we see, rates going to 4%, but inflation is not slowing down, right? And so as we look back at this, usually, overall, the inversion starts to rise when we start to raise rates. Now, it's worth mentioning, and people keep talking about it, is that we had inflation going basically rampant all through this time right here. Just all throughout this time, inflation was going crazy as, the inversion was rising. The thing to mention here is that You had rates not being touched, rates actually being cut. They were cutting rates during this time, getting it to basically zero, but inflation was going crazy and you were still going up. Now you have them raising rates. The yield curve is steepening even more. However, inflation is not slowing. So even with all the moves the Fed is making, it's had no dent on inflation, which tells you and tells me now that they're going to have to come out more aggressive, much like the EU. That's the major concern here. So as we look at Nasdaq, as we look at ES, this has been the first real cause, in my opinion, the first logical reason for real downside fundamentally, maybe in the past 4 months. If we're 3 to 4 months, give or take, basically since June, July. This has really been the concerning part here, because now we look at the market and we realize that one, inflation has control. Two, our Fed has been completely behind the curve, which we already all kind of knew if you've been here at all. And then three, we're now preparing for this terrible winter where we know energy prices are going to skyrocket and the demand is not going to be slowed down and the supply is not going to increase. All these are happening basically all at once, and it's setting up for a massive area of failure. And you even have the White House coming out today saying, look, it's going to take us longer than possible to kind of get this inflation down. Surprise. Thank you for finally telling people the truth. So you're hitting that level and you're pushing down now. Again, I have to highlight here though, you're going to have technical breakouts on charts and things that you like on a chart, but sometimes fundamentals, news may take it a different way. So for anyone saying that, oh, I called this and called that, it's not what the channel's here about. You're never going to hear me saying, oh, I called it yesterday. That's not really what the channel here is about. It's about building a community and helping you guys, helping myself, and then going over everything. That's the whole point here. So if you're here to point fingers and say, I'm right, you're wrong, you're really not helping anything. And it's better if you just unsubscribe and just stay away from the channel. That's not what it's about here. This is about community and it's about helping one another here. That's all it's about with all of my videos. So I want to say that right here in the beginning before we even go any further. So now looking at this, what I'm going to do is go to the daily chart and go over some key areas. Now, as you start going into actual futures, in my opinion, this is your supply. You're coming down into it, and you're going to want to try to bounce here, in my opinion. That's what I'm going to be looking here. So as we're looking, in my opinion, you're going to try to get some love here. However, you can already see you're trying to go straight through it. After this, your next level, it's going to start getting ugly. You have your last level, basically your previous lows, that 12,000 area that we were just at, we talked about. Remember, we just last week, this is where we were at. You're probably going to test this very soon. So honestly, I don't think this is going to hold. I think 12,000 will be touched. 12.2 was the target in Discord for the day, and you're there already. But going on past this, you're going to start entering the turbulent moments, the turbulent times. So as you prepare for PPI, I think you have PCE later this week, and you have some other news coming out, PMI as well, you have to be looking for the downside test here. In my opinion, that's just ultimately where it comes down to. You can even come to the weekly chart if you want to make this as accurate and as strong as possible on this level. But in my opinion, it's going to be right about here. About 11.13, 11.3 down to 11 flat. You're going to be coming down to this range most likely quick. And now it looks like you're even setting up for the continuation on the weekly chart, trying to flag here to get that continuation back to the downside. This is just what it's looking like as we speak and how these candles are forming out now. Now, in no way am I saying, did I call this or anything like that? It's not what I'm saying. And I couldn't have predicted what was happening here. I could not have predicted that CPI would have done this and that food prices would have rose so much. And right now, it's concerning. And this is ultimately where I am targeting and where I see the market going in the near to short-term future. New lows, most likely, because this news was that bad. It's the worst news that we've had on the market, and it's the most concerning and basically was everyone's fears when we're looking at it. As we look at SPX, looking here, actually we'll go to SPY to give you a better look. You're coming right down to those levels as well. It's very similar to Nasdaq where you're at. You can see that key level right here. You're trying to get buyers to step in, but they're not. So again, here on SPY, I'm targeting coming back to those lows around 388, 389. As we get into Bookmap and as we go into what's happening with the options contracts, it tells you a little bit of the story as well. On the day, look at the blue line right here. This is your hidden order book. It's dark pool, if you will, things that aren't going to show up on level 2 data. All this morning, shorting the entire time, even when you bounced up, continuous shorting. You've seen some profit taking, but ultimately it's all extremely weak. So I see more downside coming here. You can see CVD getting slapped. You've seen buyers try to step up when you were bouncing, and they immediately got pushed right back down. As we go over into, as well as the order book, going into those options, looking at SPY, looking at Qs, we're looking at the biggest orders here. Heavy downside orders for October 21st. Big orders flowing in across the board. Some of the biggest orders we've seen basically since June. Huge orders on everything coming in quick. Volatility is expected coming into this as well. So as we look at this, this is my concern and what I'm looking at. And I do see catastrophic downside most likely coming in the near-term future. Again, if you have questions, I will answer them down below. But again, I'm not going to settle or handle this negativity here on the channel or running anyone down. Again, I'm going to be wrong. You need to understand that. Any trader here is going to be wrong. It's just a matter of will they be honest with it as well. So when you're looking at this and you may have got this wrong for yourself, the key points to realize is, one, you were shorting news, and even me, or you were longing against news, right? So going into that, there's that risk factor that you just don't know what's going to happen. Any type of these news events, those are your riskiest overall instances, right? Even on leaps or like 2 months out that I had on my positions, those still got down like 30%. But looking at this, you have to realize of what you did wrong, what you may have missed, and how you can grow from this going further. And these are areas that I'm looking at as well. So right now, again, I see downside. I see us coming down to lows 388, 389. That's me personally. And most likely this will end up breaking very soon to push back down to those June lows as well. That's what I'm looking at. That's how I'm playing it. And I want to give you a little bit of food for thought here as well. Going into some of these big FANG names, some of the big stock names. So let's look at them. Meta, Facebook. You actually just broke your lows from June. What about Microsoft? You're getting dangerously close there now. You were on the rebound. You're pushing down now. The stock market goes down. Your stock's probably going to go down as well. You're getting hurt there. Go to NVIDIA, the semiconductors. Boom. You're right back down there. All these are getting hit right now. You need to understand that some of these stocks are holding up better than others, but a lot of these stocks are getting pushed down below their already lows that they made back in June. So prepare for this. And no, this will be an opportunity for your long-term accounts, people. You're not going to get these opportunities often, but you need to make the most out of them because they will make or break you. If you're going to be scared into your long-term, this is the time to prepare for long-term investing. These are the opportunities because in 10, 20 years, you're going to wish you would have executed better and you would have taken more advantage of what's happening with this economy right now. Today's a shorter video. I have to get out of here. I have a lot of personal stuff going on, stuff with Discord and education like that. However, I got to get out of here. Have a good one.